And I say I'm post-Christian because I am post all of that junk, all that empire junk. I'm post that.
So in the last few interviews, and including in some of what you have talked about elsewhere, um, there's been a lot of conversation around American Christianity being infused with anti-blackness. Could you give us a little taste of what that looks like? Where in American Christianity do people go to justify anti-blackness?
My denomination, well, the denomination of my church, not mine, but the Dutch Reformed people are those people too. The collegiate church, where I'm a part of it, is the oldest corporation, Simran, in America, in North America. We're the oldest continuous church in North America. We are the sinful people who took the land and built our wealth with enslaved labor. There's a slaveholder. He's coming down. Outside of the wall on my office with all the old ministers, one of them held slaves. That's what it is. So Jefferson, as a kind of founding writer, um, how many of those framers, you look at that picture with all the red dots on the slaveholders, they didn't come here to make a land for me and you. They came here to make a land for land owning white people, men. And it's built in. So the church is literally built on top of that. It's not built outside of that, it's built on top of that. The enslaved Africans were given a Bible without the Exodus story in it, the story of God hearing the cries of God's people and liberating them. And then instead taught this little book, Onesimus, is like, hey, obey your masters. That's what it means to be faithful. I mean, it's just horrific the way blacks in America were treated at the hand of white landowning Christians. And when you think about how entrenched white supremacy is then into the founding of our nation, and therefore in the building of the church, and therefore in the evangelizing of the people. A modern day example of this is these Texas Christians who will say out loud and write treatises about how Jesus and justice don't go together.
So what is it that keeps you in the church then, as a black woman
Yeah.
who is talking about Christianity being rife with white supremacy and American Christianity not being made for people like you?
Yeah.
What does that look like for you? What do you get out of it?
You ask some of my friends in the Nation of Islam, and they'll say, that's why we're not Christian, right? I think for me and for lots of my colleagues who are African American activists, I think it's about Jesus, to be honest. I think it's finding an alliance and an identity in El Pobrecito, in the poor one, in the, by the way, African Semitic one, and that'll really freak white people out that freaks white people out. No, he's not. Yes, he is. The Jews are an African Semitic people. Read the genealogies, and there he is. So here's this story of one who is other, who God chooses to be a healer, to empower, to equip the world with a nonviolent movement for justice. That Jesus is my jam, you know? We identify with that. I identify with him. And I say I'm post-Christian because I am post all of that junk, all that empire junk. I'm post that.
We want to know, what can each of us do to become less racist, and with the goal of becoming anti-racist eventually?
There are some really simple early first things to do, and they won't be the end of it. But the first part is to decide that you're going to be committed to an anti-racist journey. You don't have to. White people can live in America and not ever have to be putting this on their radar. But I think we can see the world is erupting around this issue. And I'm going to say, especially to people of faith, who I think is the largest part of your audience, I don't know that we can be people of faith and not have this as part of our faith walk. So I would say, if you're a yogi, if you do yoga, if you are Sikh, if you are Buddhist, if you are Muslim, if you are Christian, if you are Baha'i, if you are Jewish. Whatever way you think about deity or whatever way you think about the universe that is loving, I think you have to put inside that, and that would mean anti-racist. Period.